Welcome to the Nostalgic Multiverse. Hello everybody, Nostalgic here. Man, 450 subscribers. Where do I even begin? Okay, this was... Okay, I'll admit, this is rather unprecedented. Because I never thought I'd make it this far, this fast. Okay? If it wasn't for your guys' support on the Stories of Sodor reaction video, then I wouldn't have gotten as far as I've gotten now. But I don't always want to rely heavily on the Stories of Sodor reaction video. That cracked so many views and subscribers that within the span of a month, I went from having 300 to 400 subscribers. And to celebrate 400, I made a Ninjago collection video. And what did I do to celebrate 350? Absolutely nothing. Because I didn't have the time to think of anything. And especially because the numbers were rising fast. But today, I have a 450th subscriber special to give you all. And that is going to be my Ben 10 Alien collection. So with that out of the way, let us begin. Okay, so I've decided to make this a Ben 10 figures in general video because, well, what's Ben 10 without its core figures, alright? And if anything, why even bother with the fact that I have a Lego minifigure of Ben Tennyson? I might as well just make the video with all Ben 10 figures in mind, excluding my custom Omniverse Ben. So, let's start... Okay, I'm not going to go in any particular order with some of the figures. Alright? All I'll say is that, for now, let's focus on the classics here. We won't be going in any particular order, but I'm going to leave Upgrade for last because he's my favorite. So, let's start with characters of which I have the least amount of variation of. So, let's start here with Diamond Head. Now, Diamond Head is a character in which... Well, he's not really a character, he's more of a transformation, but Diamond Head's design here is based off of Alien Force's version. I really wish to get the Omniverse and classic versions someday. It's just that, well, prices go up, and especially for characters like Diamond Head. Speaking of characters with the least amount of variation that I have, but have appeared in future series, Ripjaws. Now, Ripjaws is one of those classic aliens that people tend to forget. He's the one who can basically chomp things in an instant, whether it's indestructible or not. And he can also use his tail fins in order to become a merman-like creature. I also forgot to mention this about Diamond Head, but his hands and his body in general can morph, but only into certain weaponry, like for example, to shoot projectiles, or even more so to create blades out of his own crystal. But as for Ripjaws, well, that's basically it for his abilities. And also he cannot be on dry surfaces, otherwise he will suffocate. Here's another alien of which I have the least amount of variation. It's Stinkfly. Stinkfly has appeared in almost all three series. But when it came to his appearances in both Classic and Ultimate Alien, he retained this design and never received a transformation from Teen Ben until Omniverse. Other than Stinkfly, of which I might try and get another one and make an Omniverse custom, let's move on to Wildvine. Wildvine was introduced in the third season or second season of Ben 10, right after Cannonbolt's introduction. And basically he can control plant life, and same with Diamond Head, he can turn his hands into projectiles and weaponry. And also has very stretchy limbs, so that, well, he can be used as a rope, apparently. Now, moving on to a few other characters, let's move on to Heat Blast. Now, I do have an Omniverse variant of this guy, as well as some other type of Ben 10 merchandise, and even maybe an action figure. I don't really know, but for now I have this classic series variant of him, of which he used to light up, but since I've grown older, his batteries have died out. I really need to consider opening this guy up, removing his batteries, and giving him new ones. Next up we have Cannonbolt. Now, Cannonbolt is one of those aliens who has an ultimate variant, and also has appeared throughout all three versions of Ben 10. Actually, all the versions of Ben 10, might I say, because even more so, Forearms has done so. So has Upgrade has only appeared in 3 series, but we'll get to them. So, Cannonbolt has appeared in all Ben 10 series. Same goes for Heat Blast, Stinkfly, and Diamond Head. Ribjaws as well, and Wildvine not so much. So, Cannonbolt, this is the only version I have of him. The Omniverse variant. And this one actually has a special function in which you can roll him up into a ball, and I'm going to say this for anyone who's ever wanted to make, for example, a Lego Ben 10 stop motion. You can use this figure in order to make him spin around. So, might I suggest getting this Cannonbolt if anyone is willing to make Ben 10 stop motion animations. Okay, last up for the variants that I only have one of, Waybig. So, Waybig was introduced in the classic series movie, Secret of the Omnitrix, and has had a lot more appearances since then. He made his grandiose return in Alien Forces Season 1 finale. Then, he managed to make his way into Ultimate Alien and have an Ultimate variant. Unfortunately, Bandai never took the opportunity to make an Ultimate Waybig. Waybig has also appeared in Omniverse, so he's appeared in all the series, including the reboot, in which he appeared in the movie Ben 10 versus the Universe. Now this figure, and I think you've seen the demonstration already, this figure can actually shrink. No word of a lie here. This is one of the coolest figures I've ever had in Ben 10. I would play around with this thing for hours when I was a kid. Unfortunately, sometimes they stick, and sometimes the hands would fall out. But hey, I'm not complaining. Coolest Waybig figure ever. And I wouldn't trade it for anything else in this world. Not even a proper Waybig action figure, because this, in my opinion, is the definitive Waybig figure. Now, let's move on to characters who I do have variants of. First up, we have Upchuck. Now, for Upchuck, he is a perk, referring to Tom Perkins. So, this is the Tom Perkins version of Upchuck, which was first introduced in the classic series, as evident by the uniform. And it's a pretty cool design. Same can be said when featuring this action figure of Upchuck in which you would insert something. I don't know what it was, and you'd be able to launch out projectiles or something. I honestly do not know what Upchuck was all about. He's also appeared in all of the series except for the reboot. Man, Upchuck was so close to being up there with Way Big and Cannonbolt. So, let's see who else we have here. Now we have Excel R8. This figure, I don't know where his tail is. And has been featured in almost every series, although technically he makes an appearance in the UAF era, but only as a transformation with a non-speaking role in the Generator X crossover. Yeah, that's the sad truth about this guy. But what is cool about this guy is that with his bigger figure variant, you can have this play function at the back here where something's spinning in there. And also you can make Accelerate put on his mask like he does in the show. This is the perfect Excel R8 figure if you want to make stop motions, and especially if you want him to close up his mask. Now, let's move on to one which is rather creepy. Ghost Freak. So, here's the classic variant of Ghost Freak. He escaped from the Omnitrix back in the classic series, and he's made an appearance in almost every series as a Ben transformation, except for the reboot, in which he is nothing more than a null void prisoner in the movie Ben 10 versus the Universe. But I really do like the classic variant of Ghost Freak, if I'm gonna be honest. It's sleek, it's scary, the one eye, the Omnitrix embedded into the body. This figure screams creepy. And I really wish I could just have the figure where you open him up and then the tentacles come out, just to scare people. And I also have his Omniverse variant right here. And I do like it. The chains, the hinges on... No, not the hinges. Like the braces on the arms and the wrists and his neck. It shows that this transformation is officially back in the Omnitrix. And Ben shouldn't be afraid to use him anymore. Now here's a fan favorite, Wild Mutt. Wild Mutt almost appeared in every single series except for the reboot, in which he is a null void prisoner. Now, if I'm gonna be honest, my first variant of Wild Mutt was Ultimate Alien's version of Wild Mutt. And I do like it, but if anything, you can't have Ultimate Wild Mutt without the original. Now, come on. Don't tell me that this isn't a toy you would buy. Now, Wild Mutt doesn't rely on his eyes. He relies more on his innate senses. So he can see anything coming even without eyes. And as for this variant of him, I don't know what's up with it. I don't know what's with the translucent arm. But luckily, I do have a normal version of Wild Mutt with a normal arm. And as for the ultimate variant, I like it. Forearms. Okay, this is the only alien I have the complete roundup of. Because if we take into consideration what we have here, we have a forearms figure that has muscles bulging out of him, and you can move his arms just by moving some buttons back here. Then we have the classic forearms figure. I need to restore him to his former glory. 'Cause look at him. Look at this dude. Ultimate Alien forearms is something to write home about, as he looks like a fucking wrestler. Please do not tell me that this is a guy you wouldn't want to mess with. Just look at this dude. He's ripped. And as for forearms, and as for Omniverse's version, he looks more like a wrestler, I'll say that much. But if I'm gonna be completely honest here, I don't know. Tell me which version you prefer of forearms in the comments, whether it's the classic version, the Omniverse version, or the Ultimate Alien version. Now for the final alien in the lineup, Upgrade. And I have two variants of him. So this variant, I don't know what's up with the translucency on him. I really don't know. And you're probably thinking that that would be it, but no. Like I said, I have two variants. I had recently gotten the normal variant of Upgrade last Sunday. And this guy has been... this guy's seen it all. Look at his fingers. Look at his head. It's clear this guy has had way too much Ben 10 love on him. And now that we are finished with the aliens, let's move on to heroes and villains. Okay, so first one we're going to start up with is Vilgax. He's the one who started the war for the Omnitrix, so why not? This variant of Vilgax comes from the Ultimate Alien Force era, and it's good, but it doesn't compare to Omniverse and Classics version, which unfortunately, I have none of them. Now for one of the secondary villains within the lineup, Zombozo. I have this guy in his Ultimate Alien Force guise, and my goodness is he freaking creepy. He creeps me out. Like, seriously. And even more so, his Omniverse version. Oh my goodness. It gives a whole new meaning to his name, as a matter of fact. Because he is literally now a zombie clown. And it looks pretty good. For a Derek J. Wyatt styled not minifigure. For a Derek J. Wyatt styled figure, this is a pretty good figure. And here we have the Retaliator, otherwise known as Dadsmith. This is Asmith's dad in a Mechamorph armor suit. He does come with an exchangeable arm, but that's beside the point. This guise of Dadsmith is actually pretty cool, and I used him as Upgrade for a while. Now, if I had to use him nowadays, I'd probably use him as Ben 23's version of Upgrade, that being Techno Bowl. But I still prefer to keep the name Upgrade, and also, having this variant of Dadsmith is pretty cool. Next up, we have the good guys, and even more so, a villain that I forgot. Well, not necessarily a villain who was reformed over the course of years. So, let's begin with Kevin Ethan Levin. This version of Kevin, and if some of you have watched my videos, then you will know that I got this at Comic-Con, and by golly is it a good figure. But I really wish I had the original version of the Amalgam Kevin. Not just this version, you know, like the classic series version, the one where he has forearms and Grey Matter's eyes, and Ripjaw's mouth. As well as maybe forearms is... no, wait, hold on. Like Stinkfly's wing? I keep forgetting what this guy's all about. But at the very least, I like this variant because it has a bit of Lodestar, Swampfire, Wrath, Humongosaur, Jetray, Ultimate Humongosaur as well, the pincers from Brainstorm, Spider Monkey's arm, Chromastone, and Diamond Head. And that's it. That's it for the Amalgam Kevin. Here we have Grandpa Max, one of the very well-known characters within the franchise. He's one of the characters who started it all. And this is him and his Ultimate Alien Force guys. Same can be said about Gwen, who, funnily enough, has glowing eyes, because if you point a light, you will see that her eyes will glow. I really wish I had another light so that I can show you what I meant. And here we have the creator of the Omnitrix himself, Azimuth, in his Ultimate Alien Force guise. And I like it. I always used him as grey matter for a time, but I know that someday I really should just shut myself up and buy a grey matter figure. Now, let's get to the one who started it all, the one who found the Omnitrix in the first place, Ben Tennyson. Okay, I have a mishmash of Bens, alright? I do not have a singular, normal variation of Ben, except for the Omniverse version, of which I also did have the hoodie variation, but his leg's broken. Anyway, moving on to the Bens here, we have Galactic Enforcers Ben from the classic series episode where Ben is teaming up with the Galactic Enforcers, obviously. Ben 10 Alien Swarm Ben, and it's evident by this freaking motorbike helmet, of which you cannot take off. Ultimate Alien Plumber Suit Ben, and his plumber suit's just gone. Then we have Omniverse Ben, who had a broken leg, but thankfully my cousin fixed him. And literally the only variation of Ben that doesn't really have any moving parts except for his arms, 10-speed Ben. Okay, we've dealt with characters from the classic series. Now, let's move on to Ultimate Alien Force. And as an added bonus, I forgot to do this one, Frankenstrike. I only have the Omniverse version of him, and only appeared in Classic and Omniverse. Next! Okay, on to the Ultimate Alien Force bunch, in which I have a ton of them. Let's just start with the ones that I only have one of. So, first up, we have Shock Squatch. Now, Shock Squatch is an alien who was at first exclusive to the Ben 10 Generator Rex crossover, but since evolved into being an alien introduced in Omniverse for those who hadn't seen the crossover. And that's basically it. He's just an electric yeti with nothing more than a Canadian accent. Now, other than that, we've also got Jury Rig, who was introduced in Ultimate Alien, but never got a toy. So here is him in his Omniverse, guys. This dude is a little devil who loves to break and build things. Yikers. And let's see who else I only have one variant of. Nanomech, who is from the Alien Swarm movie. And I like it. It's a pretty good figure all around. The realistic details really give it that shine. And hey, this is from a live-action movie, so the realistic textures are welcome. Now, who else do we have here? We also have this Ultimate Echo Echo. I literally only have the ultimate variant of Echo Echo. No regular Echo Echo, unfortunately. And who else do we have that I only have one variant of? Lodestar, who only comes in this one variant. The Ultimate Alien Force guise. We also have Wrath, who unfortunately never got a re-release in his Omniverse guise from Season 8, because apparently Cartoon Network ran out of money. So all they could give us was this version of Wrath. This and one with posable arms. I have two versions of Armadillo, but this is the one I prefer to show off, as the other one that I have is very worse for wear. One of his hands is ripped off and his antlers are chewed off, and it's just not good. It's just not good. We also have Water Hazard, who I've only got the Ultimate Alien guise of him. I need to start getting some of the Omniverse versions of these aliens. We also have Jet Ray, who was only ever seen in Ultimate Alien Force and the reboot. Because apparently apparently Jet Ray was going to be used in Omniverse, but they just never bothered to use him. All in all, this figure is pretty good, and although this is only one variant of him that I have, maybe someday I'll probably get the reboot variant, since there is no Omniverse variant of this dude. Make it classic Jet Ray. And we also have Terraspin, who was only ever released in his Ultimate Alien Force guise. Also, a basic thing about this guy, he can go into his shell, turn into a literal fan to blow away things. Now, as for Spider Monkey, I do have the Ultimate Alien Force guise of him. I just don't have it with me today. I also have his Ultimate Alien version right here. So, there's a plus. I also have NRG, the guise of him in his suit from Ultimate Alien Force. And I also have this variant of him, which is his literal Omniverse guise. This is the literal Omniverse version of NRG without his suit. Now for Amphibian. I actually have two variants of this dude. See? And good lord, the fact that I only managed to get this one first and not this one is quite disturbing to myself. But at the very least, I might as well use this. If I ever make Ben 10 stop motions, I will use this variant of Amphibian here as the variant for Albedo. Since it looks... For me, the darker shades make it more evil. Wouldn't anyone agree? Let me know in the comments. Big Chill is another one of those that I only have one variant of, but I also have bigger variations of him. And those variations, unfortunately, do not have some defining features. For example, one of them has an arm broken off, and the other doesn't have his wings or anything. Now, let's move on to a personal favorite of mine, Swampfire. I've only got this special variation of him which would shoot out water as if he was shooting out fire. And we also have his ultimate form, Ultimate Swampfire. Now, Eatle. Eatle was introduced in Ultimate Alien. I think there was an action figure released of him in his Ultimate Alien Force guise, but that never happened. But at the very least, we have this figure that shoots his antenna up and down, so you can make it look as if he's shooting. And you also got this variant here where he's just the action figure. Now for one of which I have the most variants of, Humongosaur. Now, I'll say this. When I was a kid, I was pretty heavy on Humongosaur because, I mean, can't anyone tell that I was big on Humongosaur when I was a kid? I have got this literal, realistic, lifelike version of Humongosaur from Omniverse. And I also have this figure here, which was my only Ultimate Humongosaur figure when I was a kid. The one with the still arms and still frickin' gun arm. I also have the Ultimate Alien Humongosaur, in which you can swap out his normal hand for the blaster hand. Unfortunately, I don't have that with me because currently we are clearing out our attic and we're going to be renovating it. So, yeah, there's a big life update for you. So, yeah. Anyway, for this variant of Humongosaur here, this is the action figure from Omniverse. And I tended to lose his tail a lot as a kid. But now, it's on there like it's nothing. And as for the action figure of Ultimate Humongosaur, I got this figure at the car boot sales when I was around, I think, 17 or 18 years old. Could have been when I was 16 as well. Anyway, moving on to the villains. So, for these figures, these are the only ones that I have in terms of villains from Ultimate Alien and Alien Force. Here we have 7-7, who was introduced in the episode when he captured a young Atea from the incursions. Then we have Gorvin, who is a Tetraman villain introduced in the Ben 10 Alien Force video game, and was later retroactively made canon in the Omniverse series. I'm not kidding. This guy was not in the actual series. He was first introduced in a video game and then afterwards was introduced in the final classic series. And here we have one of the biggest villains in all of Ben 10's history, Agragor. And trust me, when you combine some of the aliens that I had shown you earlier, i.e. NRG, Armadillo, Amphibian, Terraspin, and Water Hazard, well, you get this. Ultimate Agragor. This is one of the more realistic figures within the lineup of Ben 10 toys. And I am saying it now, how this figure has not been around much, I'll never know. Because if anything, this guy should have had an action figure release, but he didn't. I think he only had this variation to be used. It's a very cool design though, with the amphibian-styled head, the neck brace of NRG, as well as Terraspin's shell, Armadillo's arms with Water Hazard's hands and legs. This is a giant figure which is built to be a cut above the rest. Now that we've gotten all of the Ultimate Alien Force and classic figures out of the way, let's move on to the final category, Omniverse. Okay, so for the final lineup of Ben 10 figures, we have the Omniverse figures. Now, some of the Omniverse figures are missing. Hell, I'll even admit there were a few figures missing within the previous lineup of figures. Like, for example, the Ultimate Humongosaur that I had mentioned earlier. There was also a variant of Ultimate Echo and Ultimate Spider Monkey missing. And even more so for the classic aliens, a variant of forearms was missing. So, trust me, I'll have to make a community post, and also I need to kind of make another community post in which I sort out missing Ninjago figures from my collection. So, let's see here. I'm gonna go with my gut on these figures. Just reverse chronological order if I have to do anything. So here we have Astrodactyl, who first appeared in the Incursions arc of Ben 10 Omniverse. This minifigure is pretty cool. His voice is very hard to do. I'll say that right now. Because his voice is like something like this, and then you have to go rah, rah. What? Like, what the hell do you have to do to get this character right? Anyway, Topic. Topic is one of those characters in which you say, okay, I don't want to mess with that guy, and you really don't want to mess with him. The moment he opens up his face, you are scared to death. Now, next we have Kickenhawk, who was introduced in the episode Breakout. Or Outbreak. Yeah, the episode Outbreak. He was introduced in the final minutes of the episode when he was fighting off the escaped prisoners from the plumber base. And even more so, kicked the chicken alien Liam's ass. And here is a hyper-realistic version of him. Now, other than those guys, we also have Crash Hopper, who I have two variants of. And like I said earlier for Amphibian, the darker version of this guy I'll be using as the variant for Albedo. Or Albedo. Albedo, whatever. And we also have Gravitac. This is Kuro the artist's favorite alien. And I'm not kidding on that front. This guy says that Gravitac is the GOAT of Omniverse. So this alien can use gravitational powers. And it's a pretty cool figure all around. He can even turn into a planet and make his own orbit. Blocks is one of the coolest aliens I've ever seen. I mean, a literal Lego alien is something even I wouldn't have thought of. And basically, he can just, build around himself. I'll also say this. I have a variant missing of Crash Hopper in which it's a more giant version where you pull him down and then he jumps up. And last but certainly not least, for this alien lineup, we have my favorite alien of all time, Feedback. Feedback is one of my personal favorites in all of Ben 10. I'd go as far as to say that this alien is number one on my list for Ben 10 aliens. The purpose of this character is to conduct electricity from his tendrils, and even more so plug into an enemy if need be, and then shoot out power energy beams from his hands. Well, his fingers, if you will. This was a character who was locked out of the Omnitrix for years after a certain villain ripped him out from Ben. And soon enough, when Ben managed to forgive himself, he got him back. And boy, oh boy, did he turn out to be one of the greatest Omniverse characters ever conceived. Hell, classic series designer Tom Perkins came back to design this character for Omniverse. And I am proud to say that it is my favorite alien of all time. Now, we are going for the final figures, which are the villains and only one ally of Omniverse. So here are the final villains within the lineup of Ben 10 figures that I have. So here we have Malware, the galvanic mechamorph who was made incomplete and then complete by Albedo. And this guy was responsible for Feedback's demise and then reappearance. Yeah, so if it wasn't for Malware, there wouldn't be Feedback. But this villain is one of the biggest Ben 10 villains of all time. People have hyped this guy up. There was even going to be a hyper-realistic kaiju version of Malware, but it was never brought to life, unfortunately. We also have Kyber the Huntsman, who has the Nematrix on his shoulder pad here, of which in the show he would take it off and then give it to his dog, who would later be named Zed by Kevin and Gwen when they adopt her. So yeah, there's Kyber, and here's the hyper-realistic version of Kyber as well. Yeesh. The details. Oh, the details. Oh, brilliant. And as for the final ally in this lineup, we have Rook Blanco. Here is the figure that he was introduced with the Proto Truck toy. And here is his normal variant, of which I must say the details look stunning. And that's it. That's basically it for all of the Ben 10 characters and aliens that I own. So with that, everybody, this is Nostalgic signing off and reminding you all that nostalgia never dies. This was a pretty hard video to film, and now I have a lot of cleaning up to do. Oh